Joe Biden speaking on his first State of the Union last night, refusing to take responsibility for failed policies which have resulted in failed outcomes. Joining me right now is former White House press secretary and the anchor of America's Newsroom, New York Times bestselling anchor and author Dana Perino. Dana, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Your reaction to last night's State of the Union?
Well, Maria, I didn't have a good reaction last night, to be honest, and I can almost always find a few positive nuggets to point to, and there were a couple of last night. But overall, I was not inspired. I do think that they had this opportunity to reset, kind of, but they didn't take it. I thought the Ukraine part of the speech, okay, yeah, it was good. It united the people in the chamber. But if you talk to Ukrainians this morning, they're thinking, well, that was a lot more about what this meant to Americans and what it means for us. Understandable, right? That's the State of the Union address for the American people. But the world was watching. And Maria, anytime a president speaks, he's speaking to several audiences all at once. One is the American people. The second would be our adversaries. And the third would be our allies. And so if you were looking for a beacon of hope of what America is willing to do to help you in this moment that is where you see freedom and independence absolutely at risk, not just for the Ukrainians, but possibly their neighbors. And this is a fight between good and evil. So I thought that was a missed opportunity. And then just the rest of the speech, it was almost as if the speech had been thrown up in the air, fell on the ground, and then they put all the papers back together, but not in order. He just was listing things, and none of it was really new. There wasn't any big thing. He never said Build Back Better, but he used every little bit of Build Back Better, which Joe Manchin, the senator from West Virginia, has already decapitated. So I thought it was uninspired and uncreative.
President Trump just with me a few moments ago saying that the response to Russia's aggression has been underwhelming. Oil prices are surging, of course, on this conflict. You've got the price of oil up to $113 and $111 a barrel here. Look at Brent at $113 and crude oil at $111. Dana, there is a back and forth balance here because on the one hand, you want to be real tough on Russia, and the only way to be real tough on Russia is to hit them where it hurts, which is the money, sanction that energy and oil. And on the other hand, you do that and you impact your allies in Europe in a big way, given their 40% reliance on Russian oil and gas.
Well, the chickens are coming home to roost, right? I mean, these energy policies have been put in place over a couple of decades. Maria, I remember in 2005 as just the deputy press secretary sitting in the back bench for a meeting that President Bush had with Angela Merkel. And at the time, he said to her, this is 2005, why would you want to make Germany more dependent on Russia's natural gas? This would be dangerous for you and for the rest of Europe. And that was 2005. So it's 17 years later. So the pain that everyone's going to have to feel to get this right is going to be very real. And again, I think that the president cannot seem to figure out a way to say, we want to get to a greener energy future. That is going to take time. We want to reward innovation to see if we can get some of these new technologies to get into place so that we can do that. And in the meantime, we must reverse the policy that I had on the Keystone Pipeline, on oil and gas leases.
Right.
And I know that doesn't mean that prices are going to come down next week, but that's like saying that you need to go on a diet, but that if you start eating vegetables and fruit today, that you still might have a heart attack next week. So what's the point?
Yeah, let me just point out that President Trump said the same thing to the leadership of Germany in 2017 as well. And throughout his presidency, we've got breaking news this morning. Jay Powell says that the Federal Reserve is on track to raise interest rates in 2 weeks. We will see if that hurts an already weakened economy. Dagan McDowell, jump in here.
Dana, and that would certainly help begin fighting inflation. But I want to go back to the question of oil and natural gas. Our energy economy and shoring up production is prosperity and would actually help fight inflation and also stop and starve Putin at the same time. Instead, last night, Joe Biden stuck to this anti-fossil fuel position and sketched a vision for the United States that sounds like Germany, which is currently being held hostage in a vice grip by Vladimir Putin and Russia because of its reliance, as you were talking about, particularly on natural gas when Europe could be fracking its own natural gas. And an oil watcher, somebody who knows more about oil prices, messaged me yesterday and said, Europe is an example of what happens when leaders try to pursue the energy transition too quickly. If Vladimir Putin had invaded Ukraine a month ago, we would have frozen dead bodies in European homes. But I don't, and again, as you were pointing out, this was a speech that was, it seems like it was written a year ago, rather than in the last couple of weeks. It's just devoid of reality.
And if you saw one of the reactions from, for example, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she was very disappointed in the speech. She said it didn't do enough to deal with climate change. Remember, she says our country, our world is not going to exist in 10 years. But actually, if you're the Ukrainians, you think, well, guys, we have about 4 days before we get completely overwhelmed here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Dana, it's great to see you. We will be watching you in a few hours when we see you on America's Newsroom from 9 to 11 with Bill Hemmer on Fox News. Thank you, Dana. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.